everyone. Welcome once again, my friends. If this is your first time here, welcome. I'm glad you found the channel, and I'm happy that you made it. If you are a returning viewer, hey, thanks for coming back. I sure appreciate it. Today, we're going to break down this entire UFC Fight Night card. Jessica Andrade taking on Erin Blanchfield in the main event. Should be a really fun one. It's short notice main event with Talia Santos pulling out last minute. We got the word on Saturday at UFC 284 that the new main event was going to be Andrade versus Blanchfield. I think it's going to be a great main event. I think it's going to be a great card. I know a lot of people are kind of down on this one, but we've had a lot of fights fall off it. However, there's some exciting fights on this, and I think a lot of these cards end up delivering kind of some of the better fights just because you got to, it's a card that's overlooked, and, when you do tune in, you end up getting some gems. At least that's from my experience. So anyway, without wasting more time, let's go ahead and get into this card right after this.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, 138 MMA proudly brings to you the hottest picks in the world!
Flyweight bout between a couple of prospects here to open up this card. We have Clayton Carpenter taking on Juancamilo Ronderos. Now, for Ronderos, he has had a very long layoff. I'm going to point that out right away. He is 4-1 in his entire career, but he's been around a while, just hasn't been fighting. 5-0 in the last 5 for Carpenter, obviously 6-0, duh. Anyway, that long layoff for Ronderos is kind of a mix. Some injuries, some drug issues. You hate to say that's going to play a factor here, but it probably is going to play some sort of factor. Now, whether that means that he's going to be better now because he's no longer injured, hopefully, and no longer doing drugs, hopefully, or he spent too much time dealing with those things and hasn't really been training. We don't know that's going to be an issue. But in this matchup, from what I can break down, I'm just going to go off of the fights that I've seen and all that good stuff. Ronderos is very good in the grappling department. He is a back taker by nature. That is where he wants to get. He wants to get to your back, and that's what he does. He does have decent striking on the feet, but the problem is he's always kind of battling back in a fight. I feel like he's always trying to get the comeback win. He's always getting beat up, and then he has to make his way back in and get a victory. He's like Rocky Balboa. It's what he's trying to do. On the other hand, Carpenter does not have that issue. He always looks pretty good. Good wrestling. His takedown defense is there. I do believe it's going to be hard for Ronderos to get Carpenter to the mat, so I think it's going to end up being potentially a striking range fight. And I will say, Carpenter, being the longer and taller guy, 5'6" with a 66-inch reach over 5'4" with a 64.5-inch reach, is a tough guy to go against in this matchup because he does have solid Muay Thai, he does have good striking at range, and he has good distance management. So, for Carpenter to be able to keep the range where he wants it, at distance, hit those strikes, he's probably the better striker in my opinion. Ronderos is going to need to get this to the mat. Well, he's going up against a guy that's really good at stuffing takedowns. So, for me, I think Carpenter wins this one. I've got him in a parlay. I think he's a safe pick. I could be wrong because they both are very inexperienced. Obviously, 6 fights and 5 fights. Not a ton of experience here, but I do think Carpenter's pretty darn good. I do think he's a real prospect to watch. And I think he's just going to be a little bit too much for Ronderos here. So let me know what you guys have. Let's go to the next fight. Here we have a matchup between a couple of guys with very similar styles in the welterweight division. We have Themba Gorimbo making his UFC debut, taking on AJ Fletcher. Now, Fletcher is 3-2 in his last 5. So his only 2 losses have come very recently, and those are in the UFC. For Gorimbo, he's 4-1 in his last 5. Fighting outside of the UFC, obviously. He does have a sizable height and reach advantage. 6 foot with... I've seen a couple. It was either 72-inch reach or 74.5-inch reach, and I don't know which one it is. I scribbled out the 74.5 and went with 72, but I don't know. I just feel like a 74.5 was a bit long. I could be wrong. It could be either, so don't take this as like the end-all, be-all or whatever. Now, for Fletcher, he's only 5'10", so there's a bit of a discrepancy there, but he only has a 67-inch reach, which is a very short reach. That is the same as if he was 5'7", he would have an equal wingspan as height. So he has short arms. Let's put it that way. Anyway, both guys very similar. Both guys are going to move forward, throw bombs, and have all offense and no defense. So we're going to point that out. Both guys leave their chin up while they're throwing bombs, and that's what they do. So the difference, I think Fletcher starts just a little faster. There are kicks from Gorimbo that you're going to see more of than you will from Fletcher, and I do think his kicks are pretty good. So you will see some decent kicks there. So who's going to start first? Probably Fletcher. Could be wrong, but probably. Gorimbo's going to use the kicks. Okay, that's what we've got different in the striking department. Now in the wrestling, Gorimbo's looked really good offensively in the regional scene, and it's not even it wasn't the highest level of regional scene either. So take that with what it is, a grain of salt. So his wrestling has looked pretty decent. The takedowns are good. The ground and pound is where it's at, though. His top control and ground and pound, he gets that to the ground and just starts throwing bombs at you. So it's similar to like he does on the feet. He's throwing bombs on the ground. So if he can get on top of Fletcher, I think Fletcher's in trouble, but I don't think he can get on top of Fletcher, or at least not early in the fight. So if he does, it's going to be like end of round 2, round 3, whatever. Because Fletcher also has some good wrestling now, or decent wrestling. I don't know. We've yet to see him really perform. His last fight, he did not look good whatsoever. So that does give me a little bit of a worry. However, if Fletcher can get on top of Gorimbo's terrible on his back. Doesn't know what to do, doesn't know how to get back up. He struggles immensely. But the cardio of Fletcher fades. Every single round, it just gets worse and worse. And it's very noticeable. Yes, I understand you should be getting tired as the fight goes on. You're fighting people for 5 minutes in each round. But his fade's pretty hard. So that is the issue I have here. Now, how do I see this fight going? I don't like this fight as for a bet or anything like that, because I do think that Fletcher's a pretty big favorite. And with his last performance, I'm not confident in him. However, I am going to take Fletcher. He's fought a better level of competition. He has a similar style to Gorimbo. And just seeing Gorimbo on his back in a couple of situations, I think Fletcher can get on top and be able to get the finish. Or they're going to be throwing bombs on the feet and somebody goes out, which is why I'm not going to bet on this one. But I am going to pick Fletcher for just the sake of a pick. Let me know who you guys have. I will see you in the next fight. We have Evan Elder taking on Nazim Sadykhov. Now, in this matchup, both guys are 7-1, 5-0 in the last 5 for Sadykhov. Elder is 4-1 in his last 5. This should be a tough fight. I will let you know right now that this fight is a little bit closer than I originally thought when I started breaking down the tape. It's a close one. So for Elder, let's start there. He does have some solid striking. I do like the kicks and the range striking ability of Elder. If this fight stays at full range, kicking range, he does have a pretty good shot at piecing up Sadykhov on the feet. Now, however, Sadykhov, he's got good striking of his own, but he works well inside. He works well at boxing range at most. Most of the time, his boxing range is where he wants to be. He works well in the pocket, throws in combination. He has lightning fast hands and good movement in and out, things like that. Steps side to side, works his way around, gets the head moving. The problem is he spins too much, and it's silly. Now, there is a time and a place to spin in MMA. Now, my coach got me with the best spinning back kick right to the ribs. Broke my ribs even while we were sparring. He didn't mean to. I walked right into it. I'm an idiot. But spinning, there is a time to do it. Now, here's a good example of it. I'm going to tell you a little story. So, first time I ever cracked my coach with a good one in sparring. Now, I didn't mean to hurt him, but, whatever. It happens sometimes. I was excited. I hit him with a straight right. What happened is my coach, starts fading back. Turns out I didn't actually hurt him. I just thought I landed a good one. So I go in for the kill because I'm all excited. I'm going to rain on the shots, right? Nope. He spins, looks over his shoulder, sends that spinning side kick right into my ribs, lifts me off the ground. My ribs are broken. So there is a time and a place to spin. That was the moral of that story if you didn't know. Sadykhov does it way too often. He spins too much. It can get him into trouble. He likes those flashy moves, and that's not good. Now, when it comes to the wrestling and grappling, the wrestling offensively for Elder is pretty darn good. Defensively, he gets taken down a little bit too easily. The grappling for Sadykhov, he doesn't really do a ton of he's not really looking for submissions. He's got a ground and pound heavy style. Once he gets it to the mat, he's getting on top and just throwing those hammers on you. Now, he will scramble for better positions, work his way. If you take him down, he's going to try and get back to the top just to throw heavy ground and pound. But he's looking for that TKO or KO. He's not sitting there trying to play submission. Now, he will take one if you give it to him, but he's looking for ground and pound. Now, something I noticed about Elder is the dude's got cardio for days. He just keeps on coming. He's like the Energizer Bunny. So, Elder, probably a little better in the cardio department. Sadykhov, better inside the pocket. Probably more dangerous on the mat, but it's close. I do think the wrestling of Elder is pretty good. Elder, better at range, at full kicking range. I think the spinning stuff is going to get Sadykhov in trouble there, and I do think the kicks and the range striking from Elder is going to be a better advantage there. So when it comes to who am I going to pick, I got a slight lean on Sadykhov here. I'm not going to bet this. I'm not as confident as a lot of people are. I don't feel good about it, but I'm going to pick Sadykhov for the sake of a pick because that's what I do on this channel. If you're new to the channel, well then now you know I make picks. So there you go. I make picks. Sadykhov is the pick. Let me know who you guys have. I'm looking forward to seeing all of your comments down below. In fact, just put the whole dang list. Who do you have in every fight? I would love to read it and compare and contrast our notes. And I will see you guys. If you're enjoying yourself so far, do me a favor, like this video. I appreciate the heck out of you. So anyway, in this matchup, we have a light heavyweight matchup between Philipe Lins and Ovince St. Preux. Now, both guys coming in with a so-so record in their last 5. 3-2 for Lins, 2-3 for St. Preux. Now, St. Preux was at one point a title challenger. He's just getting up there in age, but Lins isn't a spring chicken either. Both guys are kind of towards the end of their career. Lins took a lot of time off after his PFL days or whatever. But this matchup here, we're going to have an interesting one because both guys they're kind of about the same when I look at them as far as level in the UFC, but they both have a different style. Now, for Philipe Lins, he's going to come forward, throw power, throw volume, and if it ends up on the ground, he's got pretty darn good jiu-jitsu to back it up. Now, for St. Preux, he's going to just be there. Not going to do a whole lot until he does. When he does do stuff, he has very powerful striking. The best thing about St. Preux, on the feet anyway, is his body kicks, because he'll switch stance, so that way he has and can throw them from the back, throw his roundhouse kicks from the back leg to the body of his opponent. He will switch to make it so he has that back leg at the open side of the body. How do I put this in simple terms? So, and you're standing in your fight stance, or whatever your standard kickboxing stance or whatever. Most people stand in that traditional, some have the Muay Thai stance, some have the traditional American style kickboxing stance. Either way, when you're standing there, you're at a 45-degree angle kind of, and the body's open. So what does St. Preux do? He switches his stance so his front foot is in the same spot as yours, and what he wants to do is just throw that body kick right into your open side. Because why? Well, if he can catch you, not when you're breathing out and your abs are strong, but we can catch you when you're breathing in, and then hit you right. I wasn't going to do it. That hurts. Hit you in the stomach. He's going to knock the wind out of you. And if he knocks that wind out of you, guess what? Then you're a sitting duck. And he does that very well. He times it well. He will kind of feint a little bit and get you to bite on something and get you to do what he wants you to do. So that's his best skill on the feet. Also, he can knock you out with his hands, but that's his best skill on the feet. But he doesn't do much. He has very low volume, and he'll just kind of be there. Just kind of be there. Back up, block, get hit again, block, get hit. It doesn't do a ton, and I don't like that out of fighters. But if it does get to the ground, his grappling's pretty good, actually, and he's got sneaky submissions. It was once called the Von Flue choke. Now it's the St. Preux choke. Now, they got that for a reason. I don't think somebody like Philipe Lins is going to fall for that. Lins is very skilled on the ground. I don't think he's going to fall for the St. Preux choke, because realistically, you kind of have to give it to the other person. It's not a choke that... I guess you could probably find a way to force it, but it's kind of a choke that you give the other guy because you just won't give up on the guillotine. And I don't think that's going to be the case for Lins. So anyway, he does have sneaky submissions other than that, though. So the skills are there for St. Preux. He's just super inconsistent. And I hate picking inconsistent fighters. I want to pick St. Preux in this fight. I want to. Why? Well, I do think those body kicks are going to be trouble for Lins. I think that Lins is going to have a hard time landing the kill shot on St. Preux. And he's just not going to do a whole lot most of the fight. So when he does do stuff towards the end of the fight, it's probably going to be some powerful shots. So if this goes to decision, I feel like Lins should probably win. But it's hard to count out a guy like St. Preux. So, oh, goodness gracious. For me, I'm going to make a pick. And I'm going to say St. Preux. But I'm not going to bet it because I think that's silly. I can't bet on a guy that's this inconsistent, or even any inconsistent fighters are my biggest red flag when trying to bet. And I don't like to bet on him. So I'm not going to. But I'm going to pick him just for the fact that Lins scares me. Here's why. The pull-out game. The dude pulls out of everything. If you look at his Tapology or whatever, how many fights he's pulled out of, yeah, I'm sure a couple of them are from some other people. But pull up all the details and it says who pulled out. He pulls out of most of them. The reason that scares me is, does this guy have a ton of injuries? Does he have trouble making weight? What's going on? Now, I know he used to be a heavyweight, so did St. Preux, so that could be part of it, but, dude pulls out of a lot of different fights for different reasons, too. I don't think he's that committed to MMA. I don't know. I think he's just doing this just for the heck of it. I don't know what he's doing. I'm worried about Lins in most matchups. I usually don't pick him. I also usually don't pick St. Preux, but whatever. Here we are. Anyway, I've wasted too much time on this fight. Let's go to the next one. I'm mega excited for this fight. We have the debut of Khusein Askhabov. This is going to be really good because the guy is 23-0 out on the regional scene. Almost all those fights are readily available, so I've spent a lot of time watching them. As you can see, I wrote down a ton of notes. But he's taking on a very game opponent in Jamall Emmers. Now, for Emmers, he's been around the UFC for a while. He doesn't fight as often as you'd like to see from someone because, whatever the reason is. The guy, I don't know, he fights maybe once a year, but he's looked pretty good. Even in some of his losses, he has looked good. Now, he is 3-2 in his last 5. Obviously, we have 5-0 for Askhabov. Now, the size difference. So, Askhabov is normally a bantamweight, and he's taken a little time off. He's still very young, so he's coming into his frame. So now he's fighting at 145. Now, will that translate well? I don't know. That's an issue that we're going to see. And that, if I am to pick the biggest unknown about Askhabov making this debut, is that he is moving up to 145 against a guy who is pretty big for the 145-pound division in Jamall Emmers. So, in this matchup, we have Emmers as a good wrestler, very good in the scrambles, top control. His takedown defense he's very hard to take him down. Let's put it that way. That's going to be great because he's fighting a guy in Askhabov who very strong wrestler in himself, powerful in the takedowns, likes to slam opponents. He'll catch your kick, lead it to a takedown or a slam or whatever. He's very good at getting the fight to the mat when he wants it there. So now, is he going to be able to take down a guy like Emmers? I don't know. Is Emmers going to be able to take down a guy like Askhabov? Well, that's going to be a fun question to answer now, isn't it? Now, for Emmers, as far as the striking go, his boxing is what I would say is probably his best asset. Now, he is a good boxer with some serious power, and he does put forth volume, which is nice. You don't usually see both of those two things together. A lot of times the power strikers are just waiting and balling up their fists and just getting ready to throw. He puts volume out there and at a decent rate, so that's nice. The thing that I do like, though, on the other side is Askhabov is an incredibly athletic striker, very dynamic. The double clutch flying knee that he has, and he gets the knockout on the regional scene. You can look it up, flying knee knockout, Askhabov, whatever. Dude, golly, that is something else, I tell you. Very nice, but his striking is very dynamic. He can come at you from all different angles, mix in his combinations. And something else I like is that he mixes in his takedowns with his strikes. And the inverse is also true. He mixes in his strikes with the takedown attempts. So he'll look for the takedown attempt, come up with the strikes, whatever. He mixes it all together. Now, when this fight gets to the mat, we're going to see probably the scrambling out of Emmers to try to get on top and start raining down his ground and pound or get back to his feet. For Askhabov here, what we're going to see is he's going to start working immediately to advance position. He does not waste time sitting in guard or whatever. He's looking to advance position right away. And if he gets stuck in a bad spot, he can reverse the position as well. And we've seen him do it time and time again. I mean, you don't get to be 23-0 by laying on your back. So there we go. Aha, look at that. Anyway, his submissions are incredible. The thing that stood out to me is his heel hook. He has a lightning fast heel hook. So if he ends up in a bad spot, gets a hold of your leg, boom, right there. Now, something that is interesting that could be a positive or a negative. I should have wrote it up here. Jamall Emmers lost via heel hook to, I want to say it was Pat Sabatini. Now, when that happened, does Emmers say, okay, I need to watch out for those heel hooks. That was quick and I didn't see that coming, and then starts practicing it? Or is that a hole in his game that he said, well, that'll never happen again, and just continue doing what he was doing? That we won't know, but this is a guy that you don't want to give him your leg because those heel hooks are fast. And both guys do have incredible cardio. Now, for me, the pick is easy for me because of the raw talent that I see on the Khusein Askhabov side. Now, for Askhabov, I think the clear advantage, youthful, incredibly experienced, skilled in every single aspect of mixed martial arts. I think he is going to be too much for Jamall Emmers here, and I think very highly of Jamall Emmers. I think he's a very talented fighter. I think he's one of those really, he's a really solid mid-tier guy in the UFC at the featherweight division. So for me, I think it's a very tough step up in his UFC debut. I do believe this is in the Apex though, so that is an advantage. He doesn't have the big crowd, although he's seen big crowds on the regional scene. Either way, I think Askhabov gets it done. Let me know who you guys have. I do have 3 units on Askhabov right now. 2 straight, 1 in a parlay. So I could end up losing my backside because I also had 3 units on Parker Porter, and that way did not go well at UFC 284. So there we go. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one. Women's bantamweight is where we find ourselves here. We have Lina Lansberg taking on Mayra Bueno Silva. So for Silva, she is 3-1 and a draw in her last 5. We have 2-3 for Lansberg. A 3-fight skid is not looking great for the 40-year-old coming into this one. 31 on the side of Bueno Silva. This matchup's interesting because we have a fighter who, on the feet, much better. We have a fighter who, on the ground, much better. Can't defend a takedown, sucks at takedowns. This is a problem for picking this fight. That's tough. Now, I am a big fan of Lina Lansberg. I enjoy the heck out of Lina Lansberg. I love the violence that she brings, or at least the younger Lina Lansberg. At 40, she hasn't been as violent lately. But those elbows are nasty. They call her the elbow queen for a reason. Her Muay Thai, very, very skilled in the Muay Thai department. She's just low volume now. She does work well in the clinch. She can put you up against the cage and just work you over with the elbows. And she does amazing when she does that, especially prior to this bit of a skid that she's had. She's very good in that department. But the problem is she has horrible takedown defense, and she's horrible off her back. So what happens when anybody with any wrestling skill whatsoever gets in there with her? Well, they take her down and keep her on her back, and she can't do anything. This fight's interesting because Bueno Silva doesn't get takedowns. She only ends up on the ground because of herself. Because herself gets taken down. If she gets taken down, she's great with her jiu-jitsu. It's solid, it's great, it's spectacular. But the problem is she has a hard time getting it there. So is she going to be able to drop Lansberg on the feet? I don't know about that because she does have good volume, don't get me wrong, but she has... I'm going to fix that D there. She does have poor striking defense. She will get hit. Now, it's not horrible striking defense, but it's not good. So, we have a very interesting matchup. It's going to come down to whether or not Bueno Silva can get the takedown or not. Because if it stays on the feet, which, yeah, I have a hard time. If it does stay on the feet, Lansberg should win. Her Muay Thai is very good. But if it gets to the ground at all, even for the slightest bit of time, Bueno Silva's going to win. But Bueno Silva sucks at takedowns, like I said. I really have a hard time picking this. I'm also slightly biased because I do like Lansberg. I enjoy watching her fight. I enjoy her old fights. Go look them up. It's a treat to watch some of those nasty elbows that she throws, slicing girls' faces open. I don't know. Maybe I'm a weirdo. Anyway, I'm going to slightly lean Bueno Silva, but I won't bet this because those odds are ridiculous, and I don't believe she can get this to the ground. If they fought 10 times, I don't think she gets it to the ground 10 times. And because of that, with the odds as crazy as they are, not going to bet it. I think she's like minus 400. Not going to bet it. Islam Makhachev was minus 400, and everybody thought he was a lock. Well, sure he won, but like it was a close one. Either way, Bueno Silva is the pick, not a bet. Lansberg is a real shot in this. Her elbows are just vicious. That cage push is vicious because she'll hit you with the elbows from there. But she's aging. She's 40 years old. The 31-year-old is in her prime. I'm leaning Bueno Silva. Let me know who you guys have in the comments. Let me know if you think Bueno Silva can get the takedown. Because as far as I know, I've never seen her land one. But let me know. All right, in all honesty, when this fight was announced short notice, I think I actually tweeted it. I had a pick right away. And I went back to, do the tape study as you do. And that pick's the same. So if you've already seen that 138 MMA on Twitter, you can follow me there. If you've already seen that, you already know who I'm going to pick. But let's figure out why. If you haven't seen that, hey, let's watch this video, okay? Anyway, we have Alexander Hernandez taking on Jim Miller in the lightweight division. Now, Hernandez is stepping in short notice. Jim Miller had an original opponent that just didn't make it. So here we go. We've got 2-3 in the last 5 for Hernandez, 3-2 for Miller. Now, Miller is the older fighter. He's 39 years old, 30 for Hernandez, still kind of in his prime. But there's something that's off about Hernandez. I don't know what it is, but he doesn't look good at all lately. Or he'll look really good for a short bit and then just fall off a cliff. So, I don't know what's going on there. But he's going up against a guy, Jim Miller, who's the winningest fighter in UFC history. Most wins in the UFC. I believe most fights in the UFC. I could be wrong about that, but most wins in the UFC, that's for sure. With that said, the dude still seems durable. He's still hanging in there. He's still doing well. He's a good grappler. His guillotines are exceptionally well. The problem with a guy like Miller, he sometimes is content to work off his back for a bit too long. I don't like that. Other than that, he usually shows good fight IQ, but working off his back, sometimes he can do just a little bit a little too long trying to fish for a submission. Now, sometimes it pays off, obviously. He's the most winning fighter in the UFC, so, I mean, obviously it's paid off at least some. But sometimes it doesn't, so there is that. Now, he's also a pretty good striker. We saw that in the Mata fight where he just knocked the dude out. So, I mean, Jim Miller still has it. He's not washed up by any means. I believe he's on a 3-fight winning streak. Now, on the other side, we have Hernandez, who hasn't looked good lately. In the first round, he'll come out with his forward pressure and do really well. Forward pressure, comes forward. If he can get on top of you with that wrestling, his top pressure is very solid, especially against a guy that likes to lay on the ground. If he doesn't get that initial guillotine, he's going to be put on his back for a while and probably lose the round. So Hernandez is a really good path to victory there. And on the feet, he does have some. It's okay. Striking is okay. I think skill for skill, Miller is the better striker, but I think Hernandez has more power and explosiveness and speed. So does the athleticism outweigh the skill or craftiness in the striking? I don't know. We're gonna find that out, obviously. But so he has the positives, but the negatives. The biggest one is that he's super inconsistent, and this is a short notice fight anyway, so that's not good. And his cardio just seems to fall off after no time whatsoever. And I don't know, and it's not the same that you see with a lot of guys where they're huffing and puffing. Now he does start doing that, but he just is done. That's it. He's just a punching bag at that point sometimes, and you don't want that in a fighter that you're betting on, especially when they're a big favorite. I don't know what the exact odds are now, but he's a pretty big favorite. My curtain's falling off. Anyway, but he also has his back up against the wall in this matchup. So in this matchup, that could do one of two things. Now, I put it as a plus or a minus. Why? Because that could motivate him. He could say, I need this win. I'm going to push through no matter what's going on to get this win, because if I don't, there's a good chance I'm getting cut, which is true. Or that could get in his head and it could really mess him up. Make him hesitant to try to take risks, to do anything, that could get him caught. And that could be bad. Jim Miller is going to come in there with a good game plan, good mindset. This is a walk in the park. This is something he has done so many times. As you look at this record, 35 wins, 16 losses, but 35 wins, that's phenomenal. So the dude's been doing it. Obviously, he's 3-2 in his last 5, so he's been winning. Like I said, he's on a 3-fight winning streak. So for Jim Miller, I do think that there's a lot of this that has me worried about Hernandez. So I do think Jim Miller is the better pick, and I'm going to pick him. I will probably place a unit bet on Jim Miller. I haven't decided for sure yet, because I'm pretty sure we can get him at better odds later, because he's probably going to be a massive underdog come fight day. So I am going to pick Jim Miller, though. I think he's the better fighter. I think he wins more often than not. Now, is there a chance that he gets caught with the power? Absolutely. Is there a chance that Alexander Hernandez gets on top of him and lays on for 3 rounds? I don't think so, because I don't think he can do that for 3 rounds. He might do it for the first round, maybe some of the second, but I don't think he can do it for all 3. So I'm taking Jim Miller. So far, I'm leaning for TKO 3rd round, but I haven't decided on that one yet. That's up for debate. You can check my Tapology, 138 MMA on Tapology. You can find me there for my full pick of what round and all that jargon. So anyway, the pick's Jim Miller. Let me know who you guys have in the comments. I'd love to see it. And this just isn't an interesting fight. We have a matchup at light heavyweight, as it says here, between Marcin Prachnio and William Knight. Now, both guys are 2-3 in their last 5 fights, so both guys kind of really need a win here. That 2-3 doesn't look good. Now, Prachnio is the bigger, taller fighter. He's 6'4" with a 74-inch reach, as opposed to 5'10", 73-inch reach of Knight. Bigger is an interesting word, because William Knight is a monster of a human being. Something I want to point out, William Knight has near superhuman levels of strength and power from what I can tell. The dude is absolutely a genetic freak, and I love it. It's great. But the problem is he gasses out pretty bad because of that. So I didn't write cardio up here. I should have wrote his cardio up here. Either way. His weight, this is at 205. His last fight was at heavyweight, and he weighed darn near the limit. He was at 250 something or another. So, what are we going to get here with William Knight? Well, I don't know. But for Prachnio, he has that karate-style background. I believe it's Kyokushin karate. Could be wrong on that, but I believe that's the style. But striking, he has the kicks, and I like the way he circles off. Mixes his kicks in well. A guy like Knight being shorter, that's going to be a good option for him. And he will circle off, which is going to be good, because he doesn't want to get hit by William Knight, who just throws big bombs and has no volume to it. But he'll throw a big bomb at you every now and then. If it hits, you're probably going to sleep. So I do like that he circles off, and I do like the kicks. The problem that I don't like, the thing I really hate about Prachnio and why he gets knocked out all the time, is because he has a clear reset after he's done striking or whatever. and he comes back. And it's a very obvious reset. And if you time the reset, you can put the guy to sleep because it's happened before. He's had his chin checked many a time. Now, for William Knight, if he just times this right, awesome. But William Knight is inconsistent and often makes bad decisions in fights. So I don't trust him to do that. I also don't trust Prachnio to get this done. I wonder if William Knight's going to be able to get the takedown because the takedown defense of Prachnio is very suspect. Now, if William Knight gets the takedown and gets on top, he could probably bring out Prachnio there with some ground and pound, or he can gas himself out and just be a punching bag the rest of the fight. I hate this fight. I don't from a picking perspective. I hate this fight. It should be a fun fight to watch, but the slightest lean, I'm going to take William Knight just for the big finishing upside. But golly, gee whiz, I am not looking forward to picking this one. I'm going to look like a buffoon no matter what. I mean, maybe not if William Knight wins, but if he wins really impressively, I'm going to look like a silly goose thinking, oh yeah, okay, you weren't very confident in William Knight and you just wrecked the poor guy. Yeah, maybe he does. But I can't bet on a guy that's this inconsistent. So I'm going to take William Knight just for the physical advantages and the fact that I don't think Prachnio can put out William Knight as much as, unless he just gasses. And I do think William Knight can put out Prachnio. So I'm going to take William Knight over Prachnio here. Zero confidence in it. Zero. But let me know who you guys have. Up at heavyweight, we have Jamall Pauga making his debut, coming off that Contender Series win against Josh Parisian. Now, Parisian is 3-2 in his last 5, 4-1 for Pauga. Interesting matchup here. Decent wrestling on the side of Pauga. Didn't show it at all in his last fight, but the fight before that he did. He wrestles more, I think, at light heavyweight, from my understanding. I don't know, but he's a little more in the boxing region or range, I guess. He's more of a boxer when it comes to his heavyweight matchups because he fought at both. So I could be wrong about that. He might just surprise me. But either way, he does a decent wrestling. I do like the slams out of him that we've seen on the regional scene and earlier in his career. In his last Dana White's Contender Series matchup, he did have some decent volume in his boxing. And that was impressive because that's what you kind of need in a heavyweight matchup when you're going against a guy like Josh Parisian, who has very good volume of his own. The problem for Pauga is he leaves his chin exposed. You don't want to do that when you're striking. You got to have the other one, one connecting, one protecting. All right, one connecting, one protecting. So, decent boxing. He does leave his chin exposed. Now, for Parisian, he's got decent wrestling, but not in the way you normally think of it. His takedown defense is very suspect, but he will wear on you with his wrestling. He'll kind of hang on you up against the cage, work your body over. Just kind of dirty box you while he's wrestling you a little bit. He's got decent striking. It's not, polished at all, but the volume is there. In fact, I think he has more volume than Pauga. And the thing that I like about Parisian that I didn't like about Sadykhov earlier in the night is his spinning back fist. The reason I like that is because of the matchup. Pauga is a guy that throws his hands and will sometimes leave his chin exposed. Well, what do you not want to do when you got a guy with a spinning back fist? Leave your chin exposed because that'll put your lights out. Spinning back fist is one of the most powerful moves. Why is that? Well, you're flinging your hand so fast back over your shoulder that when it hits, that's a lot of force. So for a guy like Parisian, especially at 265 pounds, for a guy like Parisian, that spinning back fist, I think is going to land on Pauga at some point. Now, whether or not it puts him out, we'll be yet to find out. We will find out, of course, on Saturday night. Now, the cardio for Parisian is an issue. I don't think Pauga is going to gas out, at least not like Parisian will. Parisian puts forth a lot of volume and will eventually gas out. So how do I see this one going? I've gone back and forth so many times, and I don't think I'm going to bet on this one either. I know I keep saying that. I don't think I'm going to bet on this one either. I do think if Pauga wins, it's going to be a decision. I think he's going to work over Parisian slowly. If Parisian wins, I think it might be a knockout because of a spinning back fist, most likely. So I'm going to take Parisian. In fact, I just switched my pick right now. I had Pauga on my notes. I had him written down as the guy I was picking with a slight lean. But I'm going to take Parisian because I think he's going to catch him with that spinning back fist. I think it's going to drop Pauga, whether that knocks him out or puts him down on his back and he's, in kind of that dazed area, and then Parisian has to go down there and finish him off. One of those two things happens. But I think Parisian's going to get it done with the back fist. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think I'm crazy? Do you think that back fist lands? Do you think he doesn't leave his chin exposed? I would love to hear it. Let's go at the co-main event of the evening. And if you've enjoyed this video so far, do me a favor and please like this video. I appreciate it very much. Also, maybe consider subscribing to the channel because you know what? It's going to help you out. You can find my videos whenever they're released. Typically, the UFC cards are going to come out the Tuesday before that Saturday card. Bellator cards come out whenever I can get them done. There's a pretty wild one coming up in a week from this card. So there is that. It's like a 20-fight card. So I've already started my research on it. You guys will be looking forward to seeing it, I'm sure. Either way, subscribe to the channel for your benefit and mine as well, because I want to get over that 1,000 so I can get a little bit of cash coming in, start writing some of this stuff off on my taxes a little bit, you know what I mean? Anyway, please do me that favor and like this video. Let's get to the co-main event. So here we have Zach Pauga taking on Jordan Wright. Now, 205 pounds is the weight class. That's important. Why? Because Jordan Wright, often been known as a middleweight, and Zach Pauga was on the, what's that called? Ultimate Fighter. That's the word. And he fought at heavyweight. So now they're meeting in the middle at 205 because Jordan Wright's moving up and Pauga's moving down. Interesting. Now, we in the co-main event have a guy who's 1-4 in his last 5 fights, but golly gee are those exciting fights. I keep saying golly gee in this video. I don't know what's up with that. Anyway, 1-4 in his last 5 for Wright, 4-1 on Pauga's side. Now, interesting matchup here. We've got a clear athlete in Pauga. He has decent striking. He can mix up all the different styles of strikes. The counters are what really stands out to me. He's good in that aspect. His wrestling is good. I've seen him take down wrestlers on the regional scene, and that was impressive. So the takedowns are there. The ground and pound, I do like the way he just goes right to it. He doesn't dilly-dally. And he's very strong in the clinch. Actually, that was my favorite thing about him. He's strong in the clinch and works his knees effectively. He drives them through the opponent, doesn't just pick his leg up and touch the knee to them. He drives the hip when he throws them, and I really like that about him. The thing I don't like about him is he's a bit of a slow starter. And in a matchup against Jordan Wright, you better be ready to start real quick because Jordan Wright is going to go forward 100%. He is kill or be killed. He is the definition of a fast starter because as soon as that ref says go, he's on it. Now, he does have a strong karate background, and it actually goes well for him when it does, and horrible for him when it doesn't, because the striking defense is rough, and he's been rocked and rattled plenty of times, and I think it's starting to catch up with him. However, his kicks are absolutely nasty, and the power in his hands is there as well. So when the dude lands on you, you're going to feel it. He does have strong takedown defense. Surprisingly, for a guy that's coming forward, throwing bombs, the guy can shuck a takedown. So I do like that. And when it does get to the mat, we haven't seen it a ton in the UFC, but he does have a pretty good rear naked choke. So I don't mind that out of Wright. He does have his back against the wall here. Will the UFC keep him around if he loses this one? I don't know, because he is very exciting. So I could see the UFC wanting to keep him around as just that exciting fighter that somebody's getting knocked out in the matchup. But he's also lost quite a bit. So for me, I wish I could pick Jordan Wright. I like Jordan Wright. I'm a big fan of Jordan Wright just because he's a fun guy to watch. But I can't. I'm picking Zach Pauga. Not going to bet that, though, because he's a pretty big favorite. What I am going to bet, regardless of what the line, or like where it's set, the under is probably safe. Because Jordan Wright has no ability to go late in a fight. If it goes to the second round, it's only barely. He does not know how to go late in a fight. He never has. He probably never will. And I like that about him. That's my favorite thing about Jordan Wright is he wants to get in there and get this done quick. So the under, whatever it may be, 1.5, 2.5, we're going to put it right there. That's 1.2. I mean, the under half round is probably still like pretty good to pick. But no, under 1.5 is probably where it's going to end up. I would take it unless it's like minus 300. But I'm going to take it otherwise. Jordan Wright just can't go past the 1.5 round mark. So Pauga's the pick. Not going to bet that. Going to bet the under instead. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think that under's safe, or are you going to go wild and bet the over for the crazy plus money you're going to get? I'll see you guys. We are at the main event in the women's flyweight division. We have Erin Blanchfield taking on the short notice replacement of Jessica Andrade. Talia Santos dropped out of the fight. Injury, it sounds like. So Jessica Andrade steps in. Now, this is your last reminder. Do me a favor and like this video. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Back onto this one. Here we go. So we have a surging prospect, 5-0 for Blanchfield, 4-1 for Andrade, though. She's still doing the darn thing as well. She's 31 years old, so she's in her prime. Blanchfield is just 23, still on the come up. I didn't write it up there. I just happen to know that, I believe. Anyway, the height and reach, interesting, because we have 5'1" to 5'4", only a 3-inch difference in height, but the reach. Erin Blanchfield has some long arms. Her wingspan is 5'8", so 68-inch in the reach, whereas as opposed to the 62-inch reach of Andrade. That is a 6-inch reach advantage. And if anybody who knows anything knows that 6 inches is a lot. Now, in this matchup here with Blanchfield and Andrade, let's break down the striking first. So we're going to go here first. Andrade is the better striker overall. I don't think that's crazy to say. We've seen her use volume. We've seen that nasty power that she has, and she keeps it late. She can hold on to that through a fight. The one issue with Andrade in the striking is she is open to counters. Now, yes, she beat the ever-living crap out of Lauren Murphy, but even Lauren Murphy was landing counter shots on Andrade. She just wasn't able to do anything with it. She didn't have enough power. She wasn't able to really capitalize on it. But Andrade got hit by quite a few counter shots. Now, sure, she clearly won that fight. I'm not arguing that Lauren Murphy won that fight. Don't get me wrong. But she is open to being countered. So there is that. Now, when you're going against a person with a long reach advantage on you, she does have decent striking. She does throw in combination. The volume is there. And the one thing I liked about Erin Blanchfield, especially watching some of her regional footage coming up, she has a really quick head kick. And for someone that's only 5'1", that head kick is right there pretty quick. So Blanchfield she isn't going to be lost in the striking, although I do think that Andrade's striking is going to be far superior. When it gets to the mat, however, how is it going to get there? Well, maybe Andrade is going to slam Erin Blanchfield down really hard. She could do that. I don't think she's going to want to in this matchup because going on the ground with Blanchfield is a bad idea. Why do I say that? Well, Blanchfield is a slick jiu-jitsu artist with a massive toolbox. She's got the toolbox with all the extra drawers. She's pulling out any sort of tool you can think of. You need something specific for that very niche job that you have. Guess what? She's got it in that toolbox. That is exactly what Erin Blanchfield has. Her position advancement is very, very crucial. She just keeps working through that while she's using her strikes to get there because she is nasty on top. She is brutal and she wants to hurt you. And I friggin' love that about her because what you want to see from someone when they've got top position, brutality. That's what we want to see. I mean, maybe not you guys. I want to see bloodshed. I want to see brutality. And Erin Blanchfield tries to hurt you as much as she can while she's working her way through you on the ground. Now, Andrade has good jiu-jitsu of her own. But the one thing that I didn't write it up here, but the one thing that is the issue for Andrade is sometimes she does try to muscle some things, and that can get her, get her in a bad spot at times if it doesn't just work out perfectly. Now, she's very strong, so usually she can do that. But against someone like Blanchfield, who has a very big toolbox, that's going to be tough because you might set yourself up for the wrong thing. So if it does end up on the ground, Blanchfield should have the advantage. The wrestling to get it there is all right. Her trips and her body locks is usually how she gets the fight to the mat. Sometimes those like hip tosses or whatever. It's going to be tough for her to get Andrade to the mat, I think. I think Andrade's going to put up a lot of resistance. But if it does get to the mat, Erin Blanchfield is going to have a pretty big advantage there. And I do think at some point it's going to hit the mat. I just don't know for how long, and I don't know at what point in the round. So that scares me a bit. One other thing that we don't really know is how Andrade is going to look on short notice. She's taking this fight on a week's notice from everybody's understanding, unless, of course, she knew about this before anybody else did. And I'm sure she did a little bit. It probably isn't exactly a week. We all found out about it at UFC 284. I'm willing to bet she found out about it a little before that. So anyway, it's still not very much notice. So Andrade is stepping in, probably has good cardio. She seems like the type that just keeps in shape all the time. So in this matchup here, I'm in a bit of a pickle because on the feet, I do think Andrade is probably the better one. But I don't think Blanchfield's lost on the feet. I just think Andrade is probably better. On the ground, I think it's pretty clear that Blanchfield is one of the better fighters on the ground in the entire UFC. She ragdolled Molly McCann on the ground, Miranda Maverick as well. She's just walking through people on the ground who have pretty darn good grappling. Now, Molly McCann doesn't have great grappling, don't get me wrong. It's okay. She is strong and hard to push around, similar to Andrade in the fact that she's strong and hard to push around. But on the ground, Blanchfield was able to run right through her. So I'm torn. But the reason okay, so I made a UFC 2023 futures video saying who I think is going to be the champions at the end of 2023, and I picked Erin Blanchfield to be the flyweight champion. I'd be stupid if I picked against her and picked Andrade in this one because I think she's going to be the champion at the end of the year. I think it's clear cut for me. I do think Erin Blanchfield is a very hot prospect. I think she's going to make her way up to the top, and I'm here for it. I think she is the real deal. Now, I could be proven wrong this weekend because Andrade has proved me wrong in the past. I picked Andrade in the past. I picked against her in the past. She wins a lot. So she loses to only the top fighters, and even then, sometimes she doesn't. But I'm going to pick Blanchfield because I do believe that she can be the champion this year. I think she's next in line. If she beats Andrade, especially if she does it in the way that she's beaten everybody else, if she beats Andrade like that, this girl deserves a title shot, and I hope she gets it by the end of the year because that futures bet's going to pay off. Anyway, let me know who you guys have. I know that you guys put it on my community tab. I didn't check the exact numbers right before this video, but I did check a little bit, like a couple hours ago before I started recording. Yeah, it takes that long. It takes a while to write this up here with good handwriting because I got terrible handwriting. Anyway, at the point that I checked the video last, or the community tab last, I believe you guys had 56% in favor of Andrade. Makes sense. She's the higher ranked fighter. She has more experience. She's in her prime, yada, yada. But I'm leaning at Erin Blanchfield here. And I just think that she is the real deal. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to check this out. Thank you so much for taking your time out of your day to watch this. It's great. I love hanging out with you. I keep saying appreciate. It's because I appreciate you. Comment below. I love to talk to you guys in the comments. I enjoy the heck out of it. If I don't get back to you right away, I'll probably get back to you soon. So I'll see you guys next week. We have 2 cards next week. This is going to be great. See you guys Saturday. Let's have some fun.